The facts will be analyzed. His lawyers will fight them. The state will make its opening arguments. Eventually, a jury in Miami County, Ohio, will decide if Caleb Flynn is truly guilty. This former music pastor, reality TV, contestant, and father of two, is he responsible for doing exactly what the police, the grand jury, and the growing evidence all seem to point toward? The result in that courtroom will dictate what his daughters are told when they're older. The real verdict was delivered on February 16th, 2026, in a house on Cunningham Court by the hands of someone Ashley trusted enough to sleep right next to. That is the part that makes you sick. If you are facing domestic violence, call the national hotline at 1-800-799-7233. They are open 24 hours a day. Ashley Flynn, Tipp City, Ohio. Teacher, coach, mother. Always remembered. Subscribe for more trial coverage. Post your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the jury will decide? If you are watching this later and a verdict is out, tell us what happened in the comments section below. I go by Caleb Flynn, hailing from Tipp City, Ohio. I'm here because, like so many others, music is the only path I have ever known. I suppose my wife also gave me that final little push to try out. When I first laid eyes on that golden ticket, I just buried my face in my hands and started sobbing. I'm a total softie, a trait I definitely got from both of my folks. If you're asking who truly motivates me as a performer, I would have to say it is the Lord. Serving as a worship leader is my full-time calling. So every week I'm up there singing and trying to bridge the gap between the stage and the pews. God is my primary focus, without a doubt. What makes me stand out is my absolute, unwavering devotion to Him. I adore my spouse more than anything. She is just stunningly beautiful. At 2:31 in the morning, the Tipp City streets are completely deserted. It is the sort of small town where folks still feel comfortable leaving their front doors unlocked. Neighbors recognize every child by name, and a local minister is someone the whole town trusts implicitly with their life. Early that morning, emergency crews went racing toward a residence located on Cunningham Court. This quiet, dead-end street, filled with sports gear and two pups, would see 82 hours pass while a shattered family never returned to their home. Within the main suite, 37-year-old Ashley Flynn, an educator and volleyball coach, lay motionless. A mom of two and a faithful churchgoer, she had been shot twice in the head and was dead when help arrived. Meanwhile, her husband, Caleb, the former music minister and one-time TV singing contestant, remained on the premises with a specific explanation already prepared. Long before she became a news story, Ashley Flynn was a pillar of the community. The kind of person folks rely on without even realizing it until they are gone. She earned her degree from Lee University back in 2010, a private Tennessee religious college that mirrored her deep-seated beliefs. Returning to Ohio, she poured her heart into her parish, the Christian Life Center in Butler Township, her pupils, and especially her two young girls. She mentored the 7th grade volleyball squad at Tippecanoe and worked as a substitute teacher for the local district. She also shared scripture at LifeWise Academy, a specialized program designed to bring spiritual growth into the public education sphere. By all accounts, she was the genuine article, and from the outside, her household seemed equally ideal. Everything looked perfect, a yard full of laughter, pets, and a volleyball net set up out back. Two daughters who checked in with mom every single day, a partner who once stood before a national audience uttering words that would eventually haunt everyone who ever trusted him. Here was a man publicly proclaiming his devotion to both God and his spouse on a major television network, a worship leader and a father, the exact sort of individual that neighbors would describe as a truly good man. So what actually took place at that Cunningham Court home during the pre-dawn hours of February 16th, 2026? And why would Caleb Flynn reportedly make a choice that night that would destroy the very household he claimed to treasure? To find that answer, we must dig deeper, because the secrets hidden in this case would shock even the most veteran crime reporters. The emergency call was logged at 2:31 a.m. Sounding absolutely terrified, Caleb Flynn informed the dispatcher that an intruder had broken in and shot his wife. That conversation lasted nearly 8 minutes. Caleb claimed he found the garage entrance standing wide open and said he wasn't sure if the killer was still inside. He mentioned that his two little girls were still tucked away in their bedroom. When local police arrived, the scene initially matched exactly what Caleb had reported. A side entrance to the garage was ajar. There were signs of a break-in, and Ashley was found in bed, already gone from 2 gunshot wounds. However, the garage held a clue that would start to break his story. The storage bin in the family's 2024 Ford truck was flipped wide open. The officers made a specific note of that detail. Caleb had explained that he stored a pistol there, but investigators were already spotting something strange about that side garage door. A massive refrigerator had been positioned directly in front of the interior side of that door. This meant that a burglar would have had to shove a heavy appliance out of the way just to get inside. It was far more plausible that someone already in the house slid the fridge over after the door had been opened. Consequently, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation was brought in to assist. As forensic work began, Caleb agreed to an interview at 4:28 in the morning. He claimed he hadn't been sleeping in the main bedroom that night. He blamed a lingering cough. But here is the problem with a manufactured crime scene. They almost never hold up under the intense examination of professional forensic analysts. No matter how much you rehearse the details, actual burglars don't leave refrigerators blocking their own path of retreat. Word of Ashley's death swept through the town in hours. By that morning, Reverend Jordan Hansen from their church was already addressing his followers via an online stream. People in the neighborhood stepped up instantly. A fundraiser went live for the pair of daughters. In just a few days, it pulled in nearly $175,000 from over 1,400 people. Custom clothing sales, local shop events, a whole town showing support for 2 kids who just lost their mom. But behind the curtain, detectives were following a different lead. Over the 82 hours between Ashley's passing and Caleb Flynn's arrest on the night of February 19th, police built their case piece by piece. They walked through the house repeatedly. They scrutinized every bit of lab data. They dug into cell logs, and what they discovered in those files would form the core of their theory about why Ashley Flynn was murdered. Based on reports about leaked legal files, authorities pulled up wiped text that supposedly proved a secret affair lasting several months. Significantly, before dawn on February 16th, under 2 hours before the emergency call, Caleb reportedly messaged another woman. That specific text, per the documentation, just read, "It's nearly over." State attorneys haven't publicly named a motive, yet they did establish this. The formal charges state Caleb Flynn fired a 9mm pistol at Ashley, the very weapon he kept tucked inside his Ford truck's armrest, before rigging the house to throw first responders off the scent, or as the sworn statement put it, lead them down a false path. Police picked up Caleb Flynn on February 19th, 2026. His original rap sheet included 1 murder charge, 2 for armed assault, and a pair for messing with a crime scene. During his first court appearance the following day, he stared into the lens at the Miami County Jail and uttered words that would haunt every hearing and dinner conversation throughout Tipp City. The judge fixed his bail at $2 million. He stayed behind bars. This wasn't some sudden explosion of home violence. Why was this considered a planned execution? What showed it was cold and deliberate. Caleb Flynn wasn't merely a spouse hitting a breaking point. Per online chatter and local rumors, he'd been seeing a younger gal he encountered at his place of worship. She was a musician there too, someone who joined him on the platform every Sabbath to help the flock sing. Neighbors named 23-year-old Allie Abatire, who marketed herself online as a devoted disciple of Christ, a church singer, and a Highlands College grad. Detectives, based on various accounts, discovered a massive amount of contact between Caleb and this unnamed lady. These exchanges reportedly ramped up right before the shooting happened. Consider the weight of that. While Ashley Flynn rested in the master bedroom of the house she'd occupied for 10+ years as her kids slept nearby, her spouse was reportedly texting another lady. Police claim one of those notes sent at 12:42 a.m. contained that chilling 3-word phrase, "It's just about finished." The local DA hasn't gone on record with a definitive reason yet, though Ashley's relatives weren't shy about pointing out the catalyst in their own legal petition. Tucked within that dry paperwork is a blunt finger pointing at a payout specifically life insurance. Judicial logs show Ashley Flynn carried a policy where Caleb Flynn stood to collect everything as the main recipient. The kinfolk submitted urgent requests to lock down the duo's money, savings, and retirement funds, property holdings, and cars before the assets could be liquidated or hidden. Per Ohio state law regarding killers, a conviction would block Caleb from seeing a dime of that payout. That cash would go straight to their little girls instead. Those children, 2 young girls who didn't wake up even as their mom's life was taken. The offspring Caleb reportedly spared, leaving them unharmed in their own beds, even as the person who lived for those kids was being executed just a few yards from them. The decision to let his kids live while snuffing out their mother's existence is probably the most terrifying part of this whole ordeal. We often see domestic tragedies where a whole family is wiped out, or an angry or hopeless shooter takes everyone down. That wasn't the case here. Legal papers state the 2 Flynn girls, both in primary school, never stirred and stayed in their room the whole time. They weren't targets. They missed everything. Their mom died while they snoozed soundly just down the hallway. That wasn't luck. That was a plan. Experts in criminal behavior who analyze domestic slayings have pointed out we see a recurring theme when a killer fakes a scene while carefully managing how the world perceives him. The culprit keeps whatever parts of his life help the lie work, and in this case, his kids were the main props. A heartbroken father left all alone with 2 young girls who need him is a narrative that wins hearts and builds a defense. That is exactly the kind of man a whole community will stand up for. Don't forget, Caleb Flynn was actually living at his late wife's parents' place with his kids right after she died and before he was cuffed. Her own family was looking after him and the children during those first few days while the town poured out its support for the household. Caleb Flynn leaned into that image during his court appearance. When the judge asked about his bail, he didn't even start by saying he was innocent. He just said he wanted to be there for his girls and wasn't a danger to anyone. Those kids weren't victims, they were assets. In the twisted logic of this murder, they were his cover story, his human shield for sympathy, and the proof he was a good dad. His lawyers would surely argue that he had every reason to stay alive and 0 reason to tear his own family apart. However, that whole defense slams right into the actual forensic evidence. The fridge blocking the door, the pistol from his own pickup, those wiped messages, and that text allegedly sent at 12:42 in the morning. If the state is right, this wasn't someone who just snapped. This was a man who spent weeks or even months planning it all out. After Ashley Flynn was murdered, the town of Tipp City did exactly what small towns do. They showed up in force. A fundraiser for Ashley's daughters pulled in $175,000 from nearly 1,400 different people. Most were total strangers who never even met her, but they knew she deserved to be remembered as a person, not a headline. Her school held moments of silence, and volleyball players put ribbons on their shoes to keep her memory alive. Lifewise Academy, where she taught Bible lessons for a year, was flooded with notes from families saying she changed their children's lives. The reaction from the church, however, was a lot more complicated. Christian Life Center, the place where Caleb led worship, and where, if the claims are true, he met the woman at the center of his motive, they put out a very carefully worded statement. The worship leader who supposedly sang with Caleb on that stage quit her job right after his arrest. She walked away from her position without any explanation, and the church stayed quiet about her sudden departure. According to several news reports, the leadership offered no public comment regarding her resignation at all. That quiet, that heavy institutional silence really tells its own story. When people claim a crime was cooked up inside a religious community, the first reaction is rarely honesty. It is usually just self-protection. So many questions are still hanging in the air. Who knew what was happening? And when did they find out? Were there red flags at the church? Did people see them together and look away? Did Ashley know something was up? Did she tell anyone? Based on leaked texts found on her phone that haven't been verified yet, she might have known things were wrong. Some reports suggest she was well aware that her life was falling apart. Those reports mention a text she allegedly sent that simply said, "I just can't do this anymore." We may never know what she was struggling with, but we know she didn't leave. Maybe it was her faith, her kids, or just love. A woman who gave everything to other people's kids likely had no clue the man in her own house was already past the point of no return. Let's look at the scene again, because the staging Caleb Flynn allegedly tried just didn't hold up under professional scrutiny. Seeing exactly where his plan failed tells us a lot about how cold and how sloppy this whole crime really was. He claimed a stranger broke in through the side garage door, but a massive fridge was pushed right against it from the inside. Anyone trying to force their way in from the outside would have been completely blocked. Only someone already inside the house could have put that fridge there. Then he claimed the killer brought their own gun. In reality, Caleb had already told the cops he kept a pistol in the center console of his Ford truck parked in the garage. That storage compartment was found wide open. The 9mm used to kill Ashley matched the type of weapon kept in that family vehicle. Claim 3, Caleb wasn't in the bedroom because he had a cough. That was in the police records, but it doesn't clear him. It actually makes you wonder, why wasn't he with his wife? Was that part of the plan? Did he have a reason to be out of the room when it happened? And then there were the phone records. Detectives found a lot of deleted texts and heavy messaging right before the crime took place. If that 12:42 a.m. message saying it's almost done is real, the state has a case much stronger than just forensics. Prosecutors possess written evidence of premeditation, complete with timestamps, sent to a particular individual 108 minutes prior to the killing of Ashley Flynn. This evidence contradicts the image of a heartbroken spouse finding his wife dead. The state's case portrays a person who reportedly mapped this out, carried it out, and then falsified the scene. Dialed 911 while prepared to put on an act, later sobbing and retching on his lawn to appear distraught, fully aware that his relocation of the fridge had already sparked internal suspicion. On March 18th, 2026, precisely 30 days following the bedside homicide, a grand jury in Miami County handed down formal charges that drastically increased the legal jeopardy facing Caleb Flynn. The initial homicide accusation escalated into 11 distinct charges, including one for aggravated murder, 3 other murder allegations, along with 2 counts of serious physical assault, triple charges for manipulating crime scene proof, plus a pair of misdemeanors that caught many people by surprise, coercing a lawyer, sufferer, or bystander in a felony matter, while Flynn remained behind bars on a $2 million bail with restraining orders preventing any access to his kids. He supposedly tried to manipulate the path of the ongoing police probe. These specific counts imply that despite being locked up, he reportedly reached out to or pressured someone involved in the litigation. State attorneys haven't revealed the identity of the person supposedly threatened or the methods used. However, the inclusion of these particular allegations in the formal document, which necessitates that a jury find sufficient grounds for each point, indicates that detectives are confident in their proof. Prosecutor Paul M. Watkins from Miami County shared the news of the indictment, noting that an aggravated murder conviction by itself would result in Flynn spending the rest of his life incarcerated with no chance of release. His legal team, headed by L. Patrick Mulligan, has consistently argued for his innocence, claiming the police acted too quickly and reached unfair conclusions. He maintains his innocence through his plea, though a legal denial is distinct from being truly blameless. In this situation, the body of proof gathered ranging from tech data to money trails and forensics doesn't suggest a hasty inquiry. Rather, it reflects an agency that quickly realized the initial narrative provided was entirely fabricated. Followers of criminal cases often note that when a spouse is accused of killing their partner, the reasons are seldom simple. Human beings have layers. Panic tends to build up. Regarding the death of Ashley Flynn, experts and detectives have identified 3 overlapping stressors that likely explain the driving forces behind this tragic event. His rumored affair with a younger congregant, if true, fits the typical pattern of someone feeling trapped in their current life, a person convinced that a legal separation would result in total ruin. His reputation among his religious peers, where holy matrimony is highly valued. His status as a church leader and devoted father, his rights to see his kids, and perhaps half of his net worth. In this dark logic, homicide reportedly offered a solution that kept his facade intact while removing the perceived problem. Her relatives acted quickly to lock down all bank accounts and properties immediately after he was taken into custody. The legal paperwork they filed specifically mentioned a payout from insurance where he was named as the main recipient. Lawyers for the kin argued that he possessed the drive, the chance, and the ability to drain those funds. Laws in Ohio were created specifically because the government knows that killing for profit is a very real possibility. It occurs. Should he be found guilty, he loses any inheritance. His children would then get the entire estate. However, according to the state, the scheme was designed to never result in him being caught. Maybe the most insightful part of this mystery is what he supposedly tried to save. Not cash, not liberty, but his own kids. He reportedly spared the girls, remained at the house, contacted emergency services, and acted out a role of sorrow. Later, during his first court hearing, he immediately mentioned them, saying he only wished to provide for his little girls. Throughout his facade of being blameless, the kids served as a useful tool. They weren't just kept safe because of affection. If the state is right, the girls were a vital part of the story he was trying to build for the public. Someone who murders his entire family is viewed as an unforgivable beast. But a widower left to raise 2 girls after a home invasion, that individual receives crowdfunding support. That individual gains the backing of the local community. That individual gets sympathy from his in-laws. The reported act wasn't just about killing her. It was about controlling what happened next. Judges have now assigned legal protectors for the 2 children formerly raised by the couple, and lawyers are currently working to ensure the physical safety and the monetary future of the siblings. Ashley's family filed for a temporary restraining order specifically to stop Caleb from touching or wasting the financial assets that morally belong to the daughters he says he loves more than anything. The girls are staying with relatives for now. Their identities have stayed private. Their school is providing them with mental health support. The neighbors who once supported their mom have now quietly focused all that care and affection on them. They will grow up with the knowledge that while their mother was being killed, they were just sleeping in the next room. They will grow up knowing that their own father is the man accused of being the one who fired the gun. They are entering a reality that no internet fundraiser, local benefit, or professional support system can ever truly fix. Ashley Flynn gave her whole life to showing other people's kids how to be decent, how to have faith, and how to be present. Her 2 daughters were clearly her most significant labor of love. The most heartless part of this alleged crime is that by trying to use those kids as an alibi, Caleb Flynn likely ruined their entire lives. As of this recording, the legal case against Caleb Flynn is ongoing. A preliminary court hearing is set for March 30th, 2026. The defense team has submitted motions to keep future court records private and block the public from seeing investigative details. Prosecutors have refused to give more information about the suspected motive until the trial actually starts. Some things are still a mystery. Those reported texts, including the one from 12:42 a.m., haven't been officially entered as evidence yet. If the state introduces those messages at trial, they could be the most devastating pieces of evidence against him. If his lawyers successfully block those texts, the prosecution's theory on why he did it becomes much harder to prove. 2 counts of witness or attorney intimidation were part of the indictment. From a jail cell, who exactly was he threatening? Through which person? Does this behavior hint that Caleb Flynn was still trying to control the story even while facing life in prison? The answers to these questions will show if this was the move of a desperate, trapped man, or was it the behavior of a person who thought he could still manipulate the outcome even after his arrest? The Christian Life Center released a statement of grief and asked for patience. A music director has quietly stepped down. The FBI is now helping with the criminal investigation. But the organization's responsibility for the setting where this alleged affair reportedly started has not been addressed in public. Large religious organizations are historically very good at hiding scandals without actually changing their internal culture. We don't know if this church will demand real change. That reported text from Ashley saying she couldn't take it anymore is still unconfirmed. But if it's real, it suggests a tragic situation where Ashley Flynn was hurting in private while still teaching and coaching every day. Detectives are still piecing together the timeline. It shows a woman with strength under pressure, but this was a situation caused entirely by someone else's choices. Caleb Flynn has entered a not guilty plea. He is entitled to his day in court. The legal right to be presumed innocent isn't something his daughters will still believe in once they understand what really happened. He was once on season 12 of American Idol before that night on February 16th. She was a school coach and a woman described by everyone who knew her as a constant source of light. They had 2 girls. She had a nice home and a respected life in the house she shared with her husband on February 16th, while her daughters slept nearby. She didn't get a trial or the right to be presumed innocent. She got a refrigerator pushed against a door and a fake crime scene meant to make her murder look like a suicide. She deserved better. Her girls deserved better. The community that believed in her and filled those pews with her light deserved the truth. After his arrest, Caleb's first court statement was not about innocence. It was about his daughters. He said he only wanted to be there for his girls and was not a danger to anyone. The community that had rallied behind him began to understand what had actually happened. The church where the alleged affair began released a carefully worded statement. The worship leader who reportedly sang alongside Caleb resigned without explanation after his arrest. The church offered no public comment on her departure. That silence has its own weight. Those 2 girls will grow up knowing their mother was killed while they slept down the hall. They will grow up knowing their father is the man charged with firing the gun. No fundraiser, no community support, and no mental health program fixes what that knowledge does to a child. A staged crime scene is not just an attempt to escape punishment, it is a calculated decision about who else gets used in the lie. And in this case, that included 2 daughters who had done nothing wrong. The refrigerator, the open storage console, the deleted messages, and a timestamp of 12:42 a.m. are not the profile of someone who snapped. They are the profile of someone who planned, then used his own children as props in the aftermath. Caleb Flynn has pleaded not guilty. A preliminary hearing was set for March 30th, 2026. The defense has moved to seal court records. If the 12:42 a.m. text is admitted at trial, prosecutors say it establishes written premeditation. Ashley Flynn taught other people, children, how to have faith, how to compete with integrity, and how to show up. She did not get a warning. She did not get a trial. She got a refrigerator pushed against a door while she slept. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233, available 24 hours a day. Ashley Flynn, teacher, coach, mother, always remembered. Subscribe for full trial coverage as this case develops. What do you think the jury will decide? Leave your answer in the comments. Ashley Flynn deserved better. So do her daughters. At 12:42 a.m. on February 16th, 2026, a man sent a text to another woman. It said, "It is almost done." 1 hour and 48 minutes later, his wife, Ashley Flynn, was dead. 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Their daughters were asleep down the hall. Ashley Flynn was 37, a 7th grade volleyball coach, a substitute teacher, a worship community member, and a mother of 2 girls who called her every single day. Her husband was Caleb Flynn, a former American Idol contestant and full-time worship leader. When police arrived, Caleb said an intruder had broken in through the side garage door, but a full-size refrigerator had been pushed against the interior side of that door. No one breaking in from outside could have moved it. The gun used to kill Ashley was a 9mm. Caleb had previously told officers he kept a 9mm pistol in the center console of the family truck parked in that same garage. The storage compartment was found wide open. Detectives recovered deleted texts showing months of contact with the 3-year-old church musician who performed alongside Caleb at their congregation every week. The messages reportedly escalated sharply in the days before the shooting. Ashley carried a life insurance policy naming Caleb as the sole beneficiary. Her family filed emergency legal motions to freeze all bank accounts, property, and assets before anything could be moved. Under Ohio law, a murder conviction would block him from collecting $1. Caleb called 911, stayed on scene, and cried on the front lawn. The community rallied immediately. A fundraiser for the daughters raised $175,000 from over 1,400 people. Ashley family was sheltering Caleb and the girls in their own home before his arrest 3 days later. On March 18th, a grand jury returned 11 charges: aggravated murder, 3 counts of murder, 2 counts of felonious assault, 3 counts of evidence tampering, and 2 counts of witness or attorney intimidation. The last 2 were filed while he was already in jail on $2 million bail. The 2 Flynn daughters, both in primary school, slept through everything. They were never harmed. Experts in domestic homicide note that in staged murder cases, Children are often deliberately left alive because a grieving widower with young kids generates sympathy, not suspicion.